Welcome back to the Down in the Dirt podcast, where we are getting dirty, talking baseball, and I am your host, Carson Lee. Thank you guys for joining me again on episode number 11 of the podcast. So I know I promised you guys a hitting podcast for the next 2 episodes of the show, but unfortunately I had a bit of technical difficulty, and whenever I saved the podcast after I was done editing it, this is right before I add the music and upload it to SoundCloud. Somehow the file got corrupted and was messed up. So I tried calling Apple to get Apple support. Actually, shout out to my guy Denny over at Creative Media with Apple. Me and him talked on the phone for a good hour and a half. And he did everything he could to try and help me retrieve the file. And unfortunately, I was not able to retrieve the file. Was not able to get it back to its normal state. So as of now, I do not have access to the hitting podcast. But I am going to try and get the file retrieved through a third-party service. That way I can get the podcast up for you guys, because it is an episode that is full of lots of information from guys with a lot of knowledge in this game that I played with this year. And it's an episode I really want you guys to hear, so I'm working on getting it retrieved. I really am angry that the file got messed up and I was not able to upload it. But like I said, I want to give a shout out to my guy Denny over at Apple with Creative Media, if he's listening, because he was a lot of help. He did everything he could to be able to get the file fixed. That way I could get it uploaded. This is actually kind of, a little reflection moment in life. Sometimes, when you really got to step back and just kind of look at how cool things happen. Because whenever this happened and I woke up and figured out that the file was messed up, I was really, really pissed off. Just because of how passionate I was about this file. Or about this episode, not this file, but this episode, and you guys having the chance to hear it. So I was pretty angry. And then, I started talking to Denny, and after he did everything he could to get it working and wasn't able to, me and him kind of went off track, and we just started talking, and we ended up talking for a solid hour. It's just really cool how in life the way you get to connect with people from all over the world. Denny specifically, he's from Ireland. So, we were talking about baseball over in Ireland, baseball in America. I was telling him how I played baseball. He was talking to me about him playing baseball growing up. His dad playing baseball. Then we got to talking about Conor McGregor and the UFC, sharing just lots of stories, just going back and forth banter. So it's just one of those things, I really had to take a step back, and even with as mad as I was that I lost the file, it was pretty cool to connect with somebody and meet somebody, just that was passionate about life and a lot of things, and we had a pretty cool conversation there. And then he even said he was going to subscribe and support the podcast. So, it's the little things like that just really make life so incredible. The fact that you can connect with people that way, and so even when Conor McGregor has his next fight, me and Denny are going to grab a Guinness and take the fight in from a Irish bar somewhere, have a little bit of fun. So instead of getting a hitting episode for the next 2 weeks, while I'm working on getting the file retrieved, the first 2 guests of the show, Yorgen and Justin Kortessis, they said that they would fill in on the show. So this is a impromptu podcast to catch up and talk about how their seasons went and share some insight on how to survive a season physically and mentally, how to survive the ups and downs, what continues to fuel their fire, and even what the experience is like playing in another country. So I just want to give a huge shout out to those 2 guys, because they are filling in on short notice, and I appreciate them so much for taking their time to come back on the show. even though it wasn't really planned out. Be sure to tune back in again for next week's episode, which will be part 2 of this episode with Pete Yorgen and Justin Kortessis, as we continue to talk about the ups and downs of a professional baseball season, the habits you adapt to continue having success, and then finish off talking about the experience of playing in another country. As always, though, I appreciate you guys for listening and tuning in to the show. While you are here, it would be greatly appreciated if you could rate and review the show on whatever listening platform you are on. This helps the show grow and also attract sponsors. If you leave me a comment with who you think is going to win the World Series this year, along with your review of the podcast under it, I will pick one lucky winner and send them something from me. Be sure to also tag me on social media whenever you are listening to the episode and share the podcast with your friends if you can. This will allow the podcast to continue to grow and will allow more and more kids access to the knowledge and information I'm trying to provide to help make the game better. Make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast and have the notifications on so that you will know when a new episode drops. I am also in the process of trying to get the podcast on Spotify as well, which will give you guys one more listening platform to hear it on. And if you aren't following me on Instagram, be sure to follow me at CarsonLee5 so that you can get updates on the show, and always feel free to send in a question to be answered on a future episode. But before we get started with this episode, I want to tell you guys about my friends over at Jigsaw Massage. Do you like massages? Have you tried percussion therapy? At jigsawmassage.com, we have the most powerful percussion therapy device on the market with a lifetime warranty and free shipping in the United States. Get ready for real results in pain management with deep tissue massage, recover faster, feel better, get pain relief. Shop now at jigsawmassage.com. And be sure to use my discount code Carson Lee, capitalize and all one word, when purchasing to get yourself a discount. Once again, the discount code is Carson Lee at jigsawmassage.com. Be sure to check them out, and I will have a link in the description box below. Now on to this week's episode, catching up with Pete Yorgen and Justin Kortessis on how to survive through a professional baseball season.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to podcast! Fighting out of the blue corner, out of Houston, Texas. He has more followers than I do have career hits. Carson Lee! Fighting out of the red corner, currently living in... Kortessis, where are you living right now?
Currently habitating Victoriaville, Quebec.
Currently in Victoriaville, Quebec, Canada. He's got longer beard than anybody I've seen. Puts Grizzly Adams to shame. Justin Kortessis.
Hey. Mr. Kortessis!
I'm here.
All right, you guys. So we are going to do a end of the season podcast with Pete Yorgen and Justin Kortessis. With Pete, me and him were in Florence together to start the season. And then unfortunately, we both got released. So he went to go play for the Roswell Invaders while I went to go play for the Garden City Wind. And then Mr. Kortessis, you've kind of been all over the place. So you're going to have to fill me in here. But he started the season with the Sussex County Miners and got released out of spring training. And then you went to Quebec, right?
Right, but I was in Michigan when I got the call from Quebec because I was heading to California to go play in the Pacific Association.
That's right.
And I was staying with Artum, and it was the day before my birthday because me and you were talking about it. I was like, I'm gonna get a call from. I was like, it would be cool to get a call from a Can-Am team on my birthday, and then I ended up driving 18 hours on my birthday from Michigan, right below Grand Rapids, all the way to Quebec City.
Yeah, so you ended up going to Quebec. You were there for what, 2 or 3 weeks, right?
I was there for just over 2 weeks. and then I got released, and the manager hooked me up with this team that I'm on now, which is a semi-amateur league right here in Victoriaville, and it's a pretty respected league here in Canada. They take care of me, and this is where I've been. But then I actually got recalled back up to Quebec for a weekend against Ottawa, and then whenever they got done with the weekend, they just didn't need me anymore, I guess. So I got released and went back to Victoriaville.
So that's where Peter and I don't know why I keep calling you Peter. Pete and Kortessis are right now, or where they were this season. So if you guys don't know who these guys are, go ahead and listen back to the beginning of the podcast when the podcast first started. Pete was episode 1, Mr. Kortessis was episode 2. So we're just gonna sit here. We're gonna talk about the end of the season, or the whole season, kind of stuff we go through, and how to get through the grind of a professional season. So let's get going, boys. Especially Justin, your story. Give guys a little bit of.
I'm still in season. Tonight's our last game, technically. So
yeah.
And then I still got like 3 weeks left.
Well, I want to use the Canada thing as a to kind of give guys insight that they just that there's options to play.
Oh my God, yeah.
Even if they're not not in the United States, just going out of the country, going overseas, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so let's get going, boys. So how was everybody's season? I know it's long.
Yeah.
Your body feels like crap afterwards. Pete, I know you guys just got done. Y'all just finished up playoffs this last.
Don't bring it up. One series away. Nah, it was good though.
Back-to-back years.
Hey, I was gonna say, don't get stingy here. You did have a pretty decent year last year, so.
Yeah, winning the ring last year was worth it. It would have been nice to. It really would have been cool to get a ring with the Roswell Invader logo on it, but.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it would have looked sick, but. Oh well, I mean, we did have a good season. So I mean, even though we came up short, I mean, it was still a really good season for everybody. So,
Yorgen, what was it like living in Roswell? Because I know I lived in Garden my first year of pro ball. I lived in Garden where Carson lived at, and then all three of us lived in California last year. So when I played in Roswell 2 years ago, I remember it was like, I don't know, I'm weird. It's a weird place, so I loved it. But I was like, I could not imagine living there just because it was just like hot. There's flies everywhere.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
That's about all I had.
Yeah, no, so I thought the same thing. I was like, this place is actually like kind of cool. Like it's a super small town.
Yeah.
For like how recognized it really is. But I mean, the people made it better than what I thought it was going to be. So it was cool. Other than that, I mean, last year when we were out in California, we didn't see one rain out at all, and I think our team had like 5.
Dude, we didn't see any rain for an entire. We saw rain one day.
Yeah,
that's what it was so nice being on the Pacific side or mountain side this year, because I think we had like 4 rainouts. And they were all like crucial times too. Like it was like the rain gods knew that we needed it rained out, because we'd have it rained out on days that I was like, just my body was dead. I remember one day we were in Trinidad and we were leaving the gas station. We were driving back to the field. And I told Cutter, I said, "Hey, go do a rain dance real quick so it rains." Like it was overcast. He gets out of the car in the middle of the street and just starts doing a rain dance. And literally like 45 minutes later, it just starts pouring. Games canceled. We go back to Garden. We had a whole day off. It was so nice.
See, that's the difference between your guys' schedule and my schedule, though, where I'm at, because normally I don't play except for on Fridays and like the weekends. Mm-hmm. So I have all week to recover, which has been a different thing for me this year. But I've still had like little tiny and tedious injuries that just from playing all year. Like I've been going full go, probably the same as you guys, since February, to be ready for the season.
Yeah, from basically from Florida to now.
To now. So even with a little bit lax schedule, I'm still like tired.
Okay, so I want to give you guys both a chance to do this. I know I introduced you guys once again, but I kind of want you guys to tell kind of the journey from this year. Starting where we started, getting released, and then kind of using that, like we talked about, as a fire to fuel you to go find somewhere else to play, put up good numbers, have a good season, so that you can get somewhere the next year. So if you guys don't mind, kind of sharing that mentality and kind of the emotional struggle that you go through. Whoever wants to go first, it doesn't matter.
Yorgie, go ahead.
All right.
Fire off.
So I was invited to spring training with Florence Freedom since last year. Ended up going down to Florida with you guys and playing down there before everybody had to report for their to their respective teams. So went down there for like a month, whatever, came back up, reported to Florence with Carson, and then I got released. I believe I got released like a few days before spring training ended. I'm not really sure like the date or whatever. I know I got released before you did.
Yeah, because I was the last day and you were the day before me, so you were a day or two before spring training ended. So
yeah. So got released. Basically in the meeting I got told, it wasn't the right fit at the time. That I just needed to go. I needed to keep playing, go put up numbers and see where it leads. So fortunately for me, from my manager last year, he ended up hooking me up with the manager in Roswell and was put on the team there, and just went and tried doing my best, just play hard as I could, and actually did have a pretty good season. So, just kind of used my release as motivation to do better. I mean, it was a little upsetting for me just because that was my first time being released. So, I mean, having to go through that, but at the end of the day, like understanding that, it really isn't just a game anymore. Like it is a business. So it made me understand that whole perspective as well.
Pete, I want to, my question, sorry, Carson.
No, you're good. You're good. Discussion.
No,
Let's create it.
My question was, did you pre-talk to somebody? Because this is always a question that I get from people that, I got released, or I don't know what I'm going to do if this team doesn't get a hold of me, or if I go to this place and it doesn't work out. Did you pre-talk to somebody before you got released from Florence, or did you just happen to know contacts in Roswell and contact them that way?
So basically, like right after I got released, I think it was either that night or the next morning, I ended up texting Kloppy, who was my manager last year, just saying like, hey, I just got released. Is there any way you can help me find another place to go right now? Because obviously I had no idea what I was going to do. So and he ended up giving me Relly's number, and we got in contact and made it work out that way. So
nice. Okay, so you were released, and then you got a hold of Kloppy and kind of figured it out from there.
Yeah.
See, and I kind of wanted, like, that's kind of what the same thing that happened to me when I got done with Sussex. Like, I had to make a couple of phone calls, but that's what I tell guys, and they're like, well, it can't be that simple. But me and you and Carson are both proof, or all three of us are proof that even if you do get released from a different club at a higher level or something like that, it's pretty easy to try to find a place if you know the right people.
Right.
And, you just can't be afraid to make a phone call.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is you can't be afraid to talk to people, and you got to know that you are your own representation at this point, because we don't have agents. We're not making those big bucks where we can do all those kind of things that big leaguers have the luxury of doing. So for us, we have to put in all the extra stuff to vouch for ourselves, to get us to the next place down the road and try to further our career. If you do get released, because that's the unfortunate part of this business, is you may get released, and sometimes it may even be undeserved, just because of the politics and just how the game works, just depending on the situation. Let's just go with what your first reaction was. We'll just stick with that. Keep it simple.
My first reaction, my heart sank because I saw the note in my locker that I needed to go see Pelf. So I knew right away. I was like, this can't be good. And then, afterwards, you know, I really didn't know what to think because like everything just kind of hit like a freight train all at one moment. Like I really didn't know what was like it didn't feel real, basically, And then because at that point I was just trying to figure out like, okay, well everybody's roster is basically set already. Like, who's going to need a guy this late, or where's the next possibility of me playing at this point. So I think that was kind of the main thing that was going through my mind at that moment.
All right, Justin, your turn. Let's hear. Go ahead and hear your story to begin the season.
Start of the season, or are we going from like
just the same
song and dance from last time? Okay, we did my interview in Florida. Yeah, we did both our interviews in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
So left Florida, traveled around with the Black Sox for a month, and as a starter, I was starting for that team. So I would pitch 3 innings against a bunch of different teams. I pitched against Lancaster Barnstormers. I pitched against Florence. I pitched against up in Joliet. We did the Frontier Draft. So I got a lot of exposure the first month of this season here the first month before season. So I bounced around all around the country. I actually acquired a spring training invite with Sussex County after going to a Can-Am tryout down in Sanford. I pitched really well there. I was throwing really hard, showcased myself very well that day, and opened a lot of eyes in the Can-Am. So I went to Sussex. I got cut the first. I was there just over a week, and they did first cuts. I got cut, and like I said, I was going out to California because that was my plan. I had a pre-plan determined, and I'd already been in contact with people just in case, because you got to be realistic. Like you guys have said, this is a business. So I was talking to the guys in the locker room, and a lot of the guys in the locker room were ex-affiliated guys with AA, AAA time, some of them. So I was realistic with myself. I was like, okay, if I kind of slip here a little bit and I don't have the greatest outing, there's a good chance I'll get snipped for somebody who's just a little bit higher up on the food chain than me. So that came, and it happened, and I was heading out to California, and the day before my birthday, I got a call from Quebec. They were like, hey, can you be here in 2 days? And I was in Michigan. I just drove, I think 14 hours to get to Michigan, sleep for a night, and then I had to turn around and drive 18 hours the next day to go to Quebec, which would have been only 7 hours from my original spot the day before. So it's just, but it was that opportunity, and this is the crazy thing about independent ball because it is very cutthroat. That opportunity was only available because I was there, because I was in the area. And if I didn't take and turn around and go there, I probably wouldn't have got that opportunity. So I made the most of my opportunity while I was there. I had one crummy outing, which, in the end got me snipped. But from my outings before that, I got a call back to Quebec after I was released from them, because I went from there. I drove and I was with Quebec for 2 weeks, got released, and then I ended up in where I'm at now in Victoriaville. And by staying here, Quebec needed a pitcher one weekend because something happened with passports, and there's all kinds of stuff where guys can't get into Canada or get into the States or something like that.
They did let you in the country, so.
They let me in for some reason, but I apparently went through the smallest checkpoint in Canada. It was incredible. They didn't question it. They're like, oh, you want to come in? Come on in. So I know I went on a ramble there for a minute, but yeah, I was with Quebec for 2 weeks. I got released. I came to Victoriaville, and then I got to pitch for Quebec again for a weekend against Ottawa, which was really fun. But then I ended up coming back to Victoriaville. They released me, and this is kind of where I've been playing the season still. Tonight's our last game for the regular season, and then I'll go to New Brunswick in a week and play in their All-Star Series. So.
Okay, so can you talk to us about the league you're playing in now, because that's kind of something for me. I didn't even know anything about that. It's kind of it's literally a foreign league to me, figuratively and literally. But so can you kind of explain what that is and how that's helped you? Because me and you've talked about, staying there and playing for that team has allowed you that opportunity to go back to Quebec one more time, but then it's allowed you to stay in contact with those coaches in the area for future opportunities down the line
Right.
next year.
Right. And it kind of keeps me close enough to keep their eyes on me and to keep people's eyes that they trust on me as well, because there's locals that play in this league. The league that I'm playing in is the Major League Baseball League of Quebec, and it's a semi-amateur league. It's a little bit older class of guys who play in here, but the competitiveness of the game is still
But yeah, I mean, it was a legit home run derby.
You put me back in the home run derby.
Well, heck, last
Yeah,
year.
since you are a hitter again.
I did win the spring home run derby. Don't forget that. People don't forget. Off the fungo, man.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
God.
Wasn't it against
Fungo,
Pena?
man. I think so.
I don't remember. I don't even think I went that day.
All right, Carson. It's my turn. It's mine and Pete's time to interrogate you.
Okay, go ahead.
So you asked Yorgi about his first initial reaction. I've been sitting on this one. This is why I couldn't think of anything else.
You've been waiting for this.
I've been waiting for this. What was your first initial reaction whenever you got released from Florence? Like emotion. I'll go with the emotional aspect. Like, what did you feel? Because like I know how I felt. Pete, you know how you felt. Like it's like you said, it's a very like you're very alone at that point. Like you're just kind of like.
Yeah, you are. I think for me, after we played in Evansville, I kind of had maybe an idea that it might happen.
Right.
Just
You
because
kind of just prepared yourself for it.
Yeah, just because that was Evansville was towards the end of spring training. There had already been 3 or 4 cuts made because there are cut days, you know. So there's specific days that cuts are made, and most of the time there has to be a certain number of guys cut by X date.
Yeah.
So there had already been 3 or 4 cuts at that point. The Evansville game was kind of towards the end of our spring training. We only had about a week left, and I had survived that long. So going into Evansville, you know, I was pretty confident that you know I'd have a chance of making the team, and I knew what my role was going to be if I did make it, because that was something that me and Pelf communicated with. Kind of had a rough day at Evansville, and I think from that moment on, I kind of was. It was in the back of my mind, not that I was expecting it, but it was in the back of my mind that okay,
Right.
you can't screw up again. Basically, you've already had your one bad day. You can't have any more bad days here on out. And then you know, fast forward to that last day of spring training. I played that last day at we were at home, and I played like the last 3 innings of the game. I went in to play first. So the fact that I went in and I was playing first, I kind of flipped my confidence. So I was like, okay, well, looking like maybe I'll have a shot. Kind of going in as a utility guy because this was the first time I'd played first all spring training.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, you know, maybe I'm going in as a utility guy to kind of see what my versatility would be like to see where I fit in. And then that was the day, you know, go up to the locker, have a note in the locker room, and I sat in the locker room. There was 3 or 4 other guys that got released along with me, and I let all of them go first. I let everyone clear out, just to really try to collect my thoughts before I went and talked to Pelf. So, you know, went and talked to Pelf, had the conversation, and I think you and my dad were the first 2 people I called. And, you know, for me, I think it was more just anger.
Which is normal. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think that's where guys, they're not afraid to be angry or you can be sad, you can be fucking angry about that. Or sorry about
No,
that.
you're fine. This
The raw
podcast
uncut.
It's becoming a PG-13 podcast. As long as it's not X-rated, I don't care. We got to let ourselves be ourselves. We got to be.
The man doesn't even
That's
have a
kind of
shirt
where
on.
that's the
You're
whole
talking
thing. You
about
can be
extra.
emotional about it, and that's where I think guys get a little bit scared because, that's how I felt. I was kind of pissed, but I was kind of sad. It sucks. It's a very hurtful feeling because you know you committed a lot of your time and your effort to it.
That's where the anger stems from. It's being able to look in the mirror and say, I worked my ass off to get to this point. And then knowing at the same time that one bad day is what was the cause of everything. And that's no one's fault. That's not on anybody. That's up to you that you just didn't perform that day. And unfortunately, that's sports, that's life. That's how all of that operates. You know, I mean, who's to say even if I don't have a bad day at Evansville that I'm still not getting cut? You know, I don't know. That still might have been what happened regardless. But that's where the anger comes from. It's just that you had something right there in your grasp and you let it go. So for me, that's where my anger was coming from. And so, you know, I packed my stuff up, left the host house the next morning, got back home, and at this point, I really, like same thing with Pete. The Frontier was already starting because, like I said, that was the last day of spring training. American Association and the Atlantic League had already started, and the only person that hadn't yet to start was the Can-Am, where you were with Sussex.
Right.
And so, I had basically about a week between getting released and Pecos starting, and then getting released and the Can-Am starting, and then the Pacific as well. They're all kind of in the same time frame. So for me, it was just getting back home. Truthfully, getting back in the gym, because that way I could just kind of zone out and really figure out what I wanted to do. Because that was the thing for me. I didn't know, we talked about this. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Not necessarily that I was going to quit playing. I just didn't know what the best opportunity was going to be for me going forward. If I should try to play independent in the States, or if I should try to go overseas. Maybe take a little bit of time off and wait and see how the season starts playing out for some teams. So I was really unsure. And, our manager from last year, David Peterman, he was calling and calling just to kind of check up on how things were going. And day before they started, I told him I was going to go. So I went that's when I ended up going up to Garden City and ended up spending the year at.
Peterman. God love him.
So yeah, that's it's kind of my mindset and
Okay.
kind of what happened.
Following question for that as well. And Pete, this goes for you as well. How long did you give yourself to be mad? There's a certain time limit. I feel like that's pretty healthy, that you can kind of like not pity yourself, but kind of just give yourself a little bit of space from everything and just kind of reset. How long did it take for you to get your mindset back on track to going? Like, was it a day? Was it a week? Did it take you 2 weeks?
I mean, you want the honest answer?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm still not over it. I'm still pissed.
You're still a little bitter about it?
I'm very bitter. And I think that just comes with the territory of your competitiveness. You want to move up. You want to be at the higher levels. And so it's just, yeah, I'm still angry that I'm not where I want to be. And, I probably carried that with me through a lot of the season. And there are probably some days that I don't think I ever showcased it.
You don't think it affected your play?
Well, that's what I was getting at. I don't think, not that it affected my play, 'cause I don't think it ever affected my play, but I think there were some days I let it get to me too much where it affected my relationship with my teammates. Because maybe it was just one of those days where you wake up in a bad mood, maybe your morning's going wrong, but then I'm already pissed off to begin with because, I'm not where I want to be, and now that's affecting how I'm communicating with my teammates. So, there may have been a handful of days that were like that, and that's all me. That's my fault. But as far as the immediate reaction, I think it was just that week, that week that of really just kind of figuring out the next step is. I think that's for guys that are in high school, college, amateur, whatever, however old you are. I think that feeling of getting released or being told you're not going to be able to play, it's for people that haven't gone through it, it's such a hard concept to grasp and to feel or understand, because you have to think on your feet about what's next. You don't have the time to sit around and pity yourself and really just time to waste. You gotta, if you want to keep playing, you gotta make a decision fast. You gotta figure out where you're gonna go. So it's a lot of thinking on your feet. So I let that 1 week kind of be my be pissed off, collect my thoughts, figure out what's next. Looking for opportunities, got the opportunity. Okay, I need to take this. And so that's kind of what I want people to learn from, because there's going to be guys that are listening to this that maybe they're going to get released from affiliated ball. Maybe they're going to be in college. They're going to get told that they're redshirting. Well, now I've had both those experiences. I've been redshirted and I've been released, and having the game taken from you is the worst feeling that you can have. So you have to do everything in your power to make sure that it's not taken from you. And then if it is taken from you in a circumstance you cannot control, because it's ultimately not your decision, how do you react to it? The way you react is what's going to determine your future and the amount of success you're able to have. If you have that self-pity, and that's the other thing, you can't be the guy that's pointing fingers, blaming everybody else, because at the end of the day, it's on you. Regardless of what it is that happened, it's always on you. And that's kind of the approach you have to take towards it. Is no matter how angry you are, you can't have the self-pity. And you just gotta get your mind back in check and keep moving forward.
So you say it took you about a week to do that, though?
Yeah, just as a whole.
Pete, what about you?
And kind of like Carson said, like, I mean, it still never leaves your thought process. Like, I'm still a little upset about it, but I've learned how to handle it. Yeah, basically. Yeah. Like when it first happened, like, yeah, I was very upset about it, but like now, like, I just use it as extra fuel to the fire, like just having more of a chip on my shoulder, because now I understand, like, not everything's guaranteed at the end of the day. Like, you can be there and then the next day you can be gone, and I've seen that from teammates, and now I've seen it from myself. So I've learned how to handle it better. I think for me, because that was like, it was almost like the worst timing for it to happen for me, because like when I got released, like my parents had just left to go on vacation, and so did my girlfriend. So like basically I'm going home and like there's nobody, no one's there. Like I'm by myself. Like luckily for me, like that night I got released, like I know it was me and Carson and then Zach Zariva, like we all went out to dinner afterwards and kind of just like talked about it, and they're trying to cheer me up and make the situation better than what had just happened. But I think for me it took about a day or two for me to really get over it, just because
really
it was
kind
like,
of snap your mind back into like what needs to be happening.
Yeah, because like I said, I mean, I already got into contact with Kloppy, and he had said that he was going to try and hook me up with Roswell to go play there. So like in the back of my mind, like I knew that was happening, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I'm still frustrated that this happened, but I was upset for that long, and I figured, I can either be upset about it or I can do something about it. Like I've been upset long enough, so
yeah. Well, I just
basically
wanted to ask you guys that, because it was about the same for me. I mean, it was just a couple days to probably a week that I really like kind of was down and like upset about it. Like you said, the point of what I was trying to get was like people who are listening who haven't been through it yet. It's okay to feel kind of like upset like that for more than like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like you can hear that news and let it simmer for a day or two and kind of just be like, reflect on it and do a little self-evaluation and kind of let your mind be. You can be upset for a minute, you can be angry, be pissed, but you got to realize that once you snap out of that, the mind and the stuff that made you pissed and like what you were so down about, you need to learn how to flip that and make that fire, like all three of us had. Like you said, I played with a chip on my shoulder, and when I got released from Sussex, I was so happy when Quebec called, because I was like, this is my opportunity to go prove back to those guys that I deserve to be here. And I didn't get that opportunity, unfortunately, just because that's how the cards were laid out. But it helped fuel that fire. But I got my mindset back in the right place of where it needed to be at, like whenever I first got to Sussex. Like my mind was on the game. I was training to be ready. But when I got released, I took like 2 to 4 days to kind of just like take a breath, reevaluate myself. But after that 4th day, I was back in the gym, back doing my thing, back on the road, back making phone calls, back with the right mindset of thinking, I deserve to be here no matter what these guys think, because you can't let the opinions of one coach or one organization dictate how you feel or dictate how your level of play should be, because if you take their advice and say that you're not good enough to play here, you're not going to be. But if you take that and turn it like we all three did and go out and keep playing, you guys played another whole year of professional baseball. I'm still playing right now just because we took that negative thought and flipped it and just kept chasing it, man. And
Well,
go ahead, Chris.
and so that's the thing, I had a mentor tell me that at a young age, but he said that if you play the game long enough, you're gonna get released.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things,
yeah.
if that's kind of what you have to do. We're talking about all these emotions, and people got to understand, or young kids or whoever, you got to understand that it's okay to be emotional.
Yeah.
There's very few people, very few, small percentage that are gonna get drafted or gonna go to high school, be the stud, go to college, play from day one, never have any problems as far as sitting, getting redshirted, get drafted, go straight into affiliated ball, shoot through the system, be in the big leagues without any adversity. It doesn't work like that. So you have to understand that the adversity is part of the journey, and you need to learn to enjoy it. But it's part of also building your self-character, building your values of what you stand for. That's the foundation of what you stand for stands on. And like I said, my buddy told me that you played the game long enough, you're going to get released. So if you can take that mindset, yes, you could be pissed off, but take that mindset and look at it from a positive manner. And, okay, I got released. Now this gives me an opportunity to go play somewhere else.
Right.
Like, it's provided me another opportunity.
You have to figure out how to turn that to a positive.
Exactly. It's all about your perspective of how you look for it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I mean, like I talked about when I did my intro podcast, I think we even talked about this on both of y'all's first podcast we did. But for me, getting redshirt was one of the best things that could have happened to me in college, because it gave me the first sense of failure and adversity that I had to go through. And that was the day that I had to look in the mirror and I had to decide I can either go path A, which is, okay, you just lit the fire and I'm going to make sure I outwork everybody and I come back a different person, just completely refine my skills. Or I could take path B, which is kind of that self-pity. Okay, I don't really care. I'm just going to hang out for these 4 months while they're playing, and then I'll come back next year in the fall and get ready to go. Yeah. And so, that's the mindset you have to approach it with. And I know we're here talking about getting released, something that's kind of a negative thing, but that's what I want guys that are listening to understand, is that it's okay to get released. It's okay to have adversity, to go through failure. You got to have your mindset in the right way so that you know how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And so I want to jump back a little bit because we were talking about the Pecos and that travel. I want to talk to you guys because I'm sure, if there's guys listening here, they might be like, well, screw that. I don't want to go play somewhere where I'm relying on myself for transportation. But since we've all three been there, I kind of want to vouch for that, as far as not so much the Pecos League itself, but just understanding that that's kind of one of the things that, just like, if you want to play, you take the opportunity to go play and get numbers.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I want to allow you guys to share that same perspective too, so somebody can get a different perspective other than just hearing me say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all part of paying your dues to basically get to where you want to be. I mean, we all have to make sacrifices in this game, obviously. I mean, for us, we were away from our families for 2 to 3 months at a time. So, I mean, there's one sacrifice, and obviously the pay isn't great. So there's another one. I mean, a lot of us are still playing for the love of it, but, at the end of the day, like, it's just little things like that where we have to, basically just paying the dues just in hopes of moving up to that next level.
Yeah. And it's, to piggyback off of that, I think if you just go put up numbers in any league, somebody will notice. Because, I mean, you're not going to – I mean, we play because we love the game, but we play because it's competitive. Like, I wouldn't have went to the Pecos League if it wasn't competitive. Like, it truly is a competitive professional level baseball.
There is good talent in the Pecos.
Yeah, there
There's
really
good
is.
talent in the Pecos, but
the game,
just because
the
you're not
game
playing
is a
in the
good
Pecos, I'll use that as an example because it's well established enough now where a lot of people understand what it is, but it still gets I feel like it still has kind of like a lingering bad reputation above it. But if you think you're that good, then go out there and perform. Do it much like you said. If it's
play
such
your
a
way
bad
out of
league,
it
go
if
out
you're
there
that
and produce
good.
numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
your way
still
out of it.
very hard to do because of all these elements we're talking about. But that's no different than if we were in a farm league system in low A. Only thing different maybe is that we would get a bus to travel with.
Mhm.
Other than that, man, I've played with a ton of guys, much like yourself. We've all played with a ton of ex-affiliated guys who've been in, rookie ball, low A, extended, and they're like, this is kind of the same thing. Like, you share crowded hotels, and you travel together in rinky caravans, and you play at kind of crummy parks here and there, and sometimes you don't play in front of but like 20 people. And, sometimes you get bread with salt for meals, and that's it. Like,
But see, and that's the difference though, is people think about affiliated ball and they think because it's affiliated ball that it has all the bells and whistles that come with
Yeah.
it. They don't understand that it's not like that
a
until
very common misconception.
basically the big leagues. But I mean, AAA, AA is pretty well taken care of. But
Yeah.
the lower levels, when you're grinding it out to get to those higher levels, you go through the same stuff that we're going through.
Mhm.
Right.
And the Pecos is not that's why I kind of want to vouch for it, because it's not the only. It's a good league, and it has such a just people think of it in such a bad light. But if you go to the Pacific, you go to the Empire, you're doing the same thing.
Right.
And really,
same platform.
well, really, even if you're in the Frontier or American, I mean, you're in the same boat. If you get traded, you're gonna have to find how to get yourself to that next destination. I had a buddy that he pretty much did a Pecos style travel in affiliated ball. He was in high A in the Carolinas, and they sent him to AAA, which they were playing in Austin. The next day, they said, "Hey, we need you to go to AA." So he drove from Austin to Mississippi, and got there, and he was there for like 2 days, and then had to drive back to Austin, and was with the AAA team for the rest of the year. So it kind of goes through, there's same things everywhere that you go through. The bells and whistles don't come to the big leagues.
No.
Guys gotta understand that and forget thinking about all the luxuries and just take the opportunity to go play.
Mhm.
Because if you're not playing, you don't have numbers.
Yeah. Affiliate ball, I feel like, everyone thinks it's as glorious as it sounds. Like, like you said, it's not all that it is until you make it to AA, AAA, or even the big leagues,
But truthfully, those guys don't get there from just, all those guys put in the work.
Exactly.
And that's where a lot of people are like, this guy throws 100, and it's like, yeah, he throws 100, but I guarantee you he's worked for the past 4 months to make sure for the next 3 months of him playing, he can still throw 100. Like,
Yeah.
over half your year is committed to getting to that point. Like,
look at his gym routine. Look at his diet. Look at his stretch routine. Look
it. His throwing program. Look at
his
everything.
throwing
Look at
program,
all the
exactly.
extras that we have to go through to be able to produce.
And that's actually something I want to get into. The habits that he has to allow him to have success during the season. Because that's if you have good habits, that's what creates a successful life. Guys don't realize that. They don't realize that what they see on TV is not all these guys are.
Yeah.
It's everything that goes on behind the scenes.
And that's where a lot of people who don't play in professional athletics or don't really strive themselves toward, not just athletics, but don't strive themselves towards a goal, don't really connect and understand that is like, it's very hard to do, especially if you're like in something by yourself, which I know for us during the off season, I throw into a net 6 times out of the week because I don't have anybody to throw with because nobody else is playing no one else is playing professional baseball where I'm at.
Yeah.
So like me trying to find somebody to hit during the week when I'm free, or throw by myself, like do all that stuff. Sometimes you have to self-motivate yourself and do it by yourself, which with anything, if you have to do something by yourself, it's usually kind of crummy unless you're really enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's hard to persevere through stuff like that if you don't really enjoy it. So, I don't know, man.
And that is the end of part 1 of this episode. Stay tuned to hear the rest of my episode with Pete and Justin as we talk about surviving the grind of a professional baseball season on next week's episode. Thank you for getting dirty with me on the Down in the Dirt podcast.